So everyone, today is testing day. Now for homeschoolers, testing is can be a part of the regulations that you fall under with regard to whatever state it is that you're homeschooling in. So for Washington State, we are required to let the superintendents of our school district know that we're homeschooling, and then we're supposed to also make sure that our children are tested every year. So it's part of one of those necessary things that has to get done. Depending on whatever state you're in is going to dictate for you what the requirements are for your homeschool. So I recommend for people who maybe haven't started homeschooling or are thinking about it, they can go to HSLDA's website, which I can link to here in the bottom of the video. And they'll go through a lot of the legal aspects with regard to homeschooling, which is something that we have to obey and have to listen to as far as what it is that we need to be letting the state know we're doing. So anyway, so the legal requirement for homeschooling for us is to do the testing. Now, for the testing, inevitably, what ends up happening?
Maybe a little anxious, yeah. Well, for us, when we moved to Washington, we had never had to be tested before in all the states that we lived in. So it was my first time, and it was a little bit like, ooh, this is going to be revealing of how well I'm doing as a teacher, and you know, how the children are doing too. So it was a little stressful, but we had some encouragement from Vodi Bakum, I think. He said, you know, to remember why you're homeschooling and what your goals are. You know, to not get too caught up in the academics, because though important, they're not the ultimate, right?
Right. So for the state of Washington testing here, they have a very academic focus. So they're going to be testing them on their reading, on their writing, arithmetic, spelling, things like that. So so sure, it can be anxious as you await nervously the expectation of what's going to happen with your children and how they perform on their testing, on their state mandated testing. But for us, I think, you know, we think about it differently. So the two things. First thing is that we are homeschoolers. That's true. So we're abiding by the legal requirements of homeschooling. But second thing, and more importantly, is that we're Christian homeschoolers, an emphasis on the Christian part. Now, from the Christian perspective, when we think about the education of our children, we talked about this in another video, the paideia, the constant discipleship of our family, of our kids, academics doesn't really come into being a factor as far as how God wants us to be evaluating what we're teaching our children and how we teach our children. And what I would say is when you read the Bible, the clearest probably explanation that I would say, and kind of like the motto for what we use for our homeschooling, comes from Deuteronomy 6. And Deuteronomy 6 is known as the Shema, and it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your soul and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise." So from God's perspective, what God is worried about for education, the education of children, God is worried about us teaching our children about who God is and what He says and what we're supposed to do. And so really for us, I don't have a whole lot of anxiety about what happens here in our state testing. So because the results of what the state thinks are important to our family are not important to God. And so therefore they're not important to me. So they may serve a purpose that, you know, is secondary, maybe even tertiary to your actual focus of your education. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it.
Right. There's no state testing that's going to tell you about your child's character. You already know that. And anything that the test is going to tell you, you probably already know too. Like, oh, we dropped the ball on spelling this year, maybe we should focus a little bit more on that. Or this particular child really hates math and really struggles with it, so we can decide if we want to, you know, hire a tutor or pursue it further, or we can just say, you know what, you're not going to be an engineer, and that's okay because God has a plan for your life. You know, we don't have to stress about it either way. There's no anxiety needed, and it can be just a time to just, you know, be reassured about what you are doing correctly and what you need to focus on a little bit more. But ultimately, the character and understanding God's law is more important than how they do on their math test.
Yep, exactly. All right, Cadence, what do you think about testing, being tested?
I really enjoy testing. It's just a lot of fun.
I think it's one of my favorite days of the year. It's so fun.
Are you nervous?
Nope.
Nah.
Do you look forward to testing day?
Yes, totally.
Yes.
Why do you like it?
Well, I actually enjoy school, especially spelling. I hate math, but I like spelling.
And then do you like the place where we do the testing?
Yes, because right after we get to go down to the lake.
So it's a pretty fun day.
Yes.
Waiting it out.
I did not know you were right. I just needed to know you were right. I get all my balls now. I got
And then that's your last one? Last one ever. Done! Yes. How's your first testing going?
Good.
Yeah? What do you think about it?
It's tiring my hand.
From all the writing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Are you nervous or are you doing all right?
I'm doing it.
Okay. And you ready to finish it up?
Yes.
And then what?
And then I get a lollipop.
How's it going?
Fun?
You almost done?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it hard? No. You don't want to play Foursquare?
No. I don't like Foursquare.
You don't like Foursquare?
Did your sister get you? Did you wake up? Hi. Did you wake up?
side?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not on the other side.
Hold this up.
about
Look out. P. It's a little loud, huh?
Yeah.